we'll transition over to updates from DEQ. So I'll invite Michael to come give those updates.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Locke. I am a public affairs specialist in DEQ's Northwest region, which encompasses the Portland metro region. For our updates, I don't have much in the way when it comes to Portland Harbor specific uplands cleanup, which is our role in the Portland Harbor Superfund. However, I've got a pretty big update about an adjacent site, which you've all heard me talk about several times over the past year, which is regarding the McCormick and Baxter Superfund site, or the property that is located essentially in between the University of Portland's Franz River campus and Metro's future Willamette Cove Nature Park. It's in the University Park neighborhood, but also close to the Cathedral Park neighborhood, St. John's, and Portsmouth. So on December 1st, we opened a 60-day formal comment period on a proposed prospective purchaser agreement with Portland Botanical Gardens to facilitate the transfer of the McCormick and Baxter property to them. We really do want to hear from the community, and we're hosting three virtual public meetings, being on December 11th, so tomorrow, starting at 6 o'clock in the evening, December 16th in the afternoon, as well as January 8th in the evening as well. And we want to provide this opportunity for folks to learn more about this draft prospective purchaser agreement, which I will just call it PPA for short, moving forward. Share key information about those documents, give people the opportunity to ask questions, as well as share feedback and comments to us. We're also hosting separate meetings for tribes that are interested in the future of the property as well. The first one that took place actually earlier today. We're accepting written comments until January 30th at the end of the workday, so 5 p.m. So we're going to consider all comments that we receive during this time. So whether that be written or made verbally at one of these public meetings. And we're going to read and consider all of these when making our decision about whether or not to approve the draft PPA or modify it. And we will send our decision-making documents and response to comments to everyone that participates once that decision is made. I wanted to just take this opportunity to provide a quick reminder about what a DEQ issued prospective purchaser agreement is. So a PPA is a legally binding agreement that lets a new buyer take on a property with historical contamination, but with some liability protections from the state. In return, the new owner must comply with conditions to ensure that the property remains that is protective of human health and the environment, and that the new property owner provides what the state calls a substantial public benefit. And DEQ uses PPAs to facilitate cleanup and productive reuse of properties with historical contamination that otherwise probably would not occur because of the liabilities that could be associated with purchasing a contaminated site. I also want to mention that um, if that PPA is approved, that does not provide federal liability protections or future liability protections from, let's say, future contamination that may occur from a new property owner. So important distinctions there. Now that's very jargony, and we're happy to answer questions about that. Um, when it comes to the substantial public benefit portion of this, Portland Botanical Gardens is proposing to do so by providing or developing research and education focused botanical gardens on a portion of that property, a public green space along the waterfront, which will include a connection to the Willamette River Greenway Trail, interpretive native plant gardens, and an open gathering space. Other distinctions with this PPA, so if DEQ approves it, it would allow Portland Botanical Gardens to move forward with purchasing the property, but want to really emphasize that if DEQ approves it, it does not mean that the property transaction automatically occurs. So even if Portland Town Gardens gets the PPA, it does not mean they immediately get the property. There's going to be the draft PPA has some conditions tied to it that gives Plum Town Gardens a 1 year timeline to meet several requirements for DEQ to consider before we would approve such a transaction. Another important thing for me to reiterate is that the property has already been cleaned up and it is safe for people to use today. DEQ and EPA worked together to complete this cleanup project under the Superfund program, which was finished in 2005, actually. So the property has been waiting for its next chapter for quite some time now. A little summary of the cleanup. It removed contaminated soil. We removed some contaminated groundwater, installed clean soil caps and groundwater controls, and we capped contaminated sediment in the Willamette River. And DEQ is still monitoring the site to ensure the remedy continues to be protective as designed, and that long-term monitoring and responsibility will still be under DEQ's purview, even if we approve that PPA. So we're looking forward to continuing this conversation with the community, and we encourage everybody that's in attendance here to attend one of those meetings or submit a comment for consideration. I'm going to put all that information in the chat here. And we want to make sure that everybody who might be interested in learning more and providing their input or questions to participate. So please feel free to share this information along with your neighbors and networks. Moving on to next door at Willamette Cove, specifically the uplands cleanup. DEQ did approve the basis of design report of the for the Willamette Cove upland cleanup, which outlines the cleanup approach that the Port of Portland and Metro will take for that area. And more refined details will be provided in subsequent reports. The next steps would include the port and Metro to submit the next phase of design deliverables, including a draft supplemental remedial design work plan and the 30% remedial design for DEQ's review, which I believe those are anticipated in the near future here. So that was kind of long-winded, and that concludes my updates for us today, but I am happy to take any questions. Laura, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, Michael, just to confirm, so it was my understanding that EPA was monitoring the cap at McCormick and Baxter every 5 years. Is that correct? And are they going to be involved still if they were doing that?
Yeah, that's a collaborative effort between both agencies, and yeah, those 5 year reviews are still going to continue. I believe we're in the middle of doing the next iteration of the 5 year review now, and that is anticipated to be ready to share in the fall of 2026.
And that would be on your website, EPA's website. I mean, I think the community needs to know how to access these things where they are.
Yeah, no, that's really good consideration. I know for our cleanup project reports, we put our cleanup project documents on this, I'd say, relatively newer database called Your DEQ Online. Happy to share a link to that too.
Okay.
But yeah, we would share that information on our resources. EPA, if one of you might want to chime in on that, please
Yeah,
do.
I can chime in. Yeah, it's a great question, Laura. Yeah, we are tracking that 5 year review, and it'll be on the McCormick and Baxter. It'll be on our website too. So we'll make sure that gets shared. That's something that we we will disseminate too, and also it's EPA best practice, to let people know that 5 year review is happening. So we'll be keeping everyone updated on that, and the document will be shared. And I know Ann Christopher, the EPA remedial project manager, and DEQ too, amazing partners on this.
Great.
They've given updates in the past on that. And I think this would be when the 5 year review is complete too, would be a really good opportunity to do that again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions? Right. Well, I am here for the rest of the meeting, so feel free to DM me in the chat if you have questions. I'll put my contact information in the chat as well, plus all of the good McCormick and Baxter stuff and all the ways that you can participate in this comment period. And yeah, looking forward to continuing that conversation with the future of the site. So thank you all very much.